But there was one point on the drive down, we still had another 40 minutes to drive, and I literally got a picture of her laying on the ground. And so I knew she was dead. And I was even commanding life into the body at that point because I could see it. And so when I arrived, I already had a knowing that she was gone. However, it's kind of abrupt when somebody comes and tells you, and he doesn't even know his mother's gone. And my pastors didn't appreciate her doing that and rebuked her because I didn't know. But I promptly left the hospital and drove down to the accident scene and walked clear into the accident. And so there were two investigative officers that were standing on the side of the road, and I see all these lights set up. And I had actually arrived. I had arrived about 3 minutes after the point where they uncovered everything so that they could take photos. And so I'm marching into where I can see all the lights and see all the wreckage. And as I'm walking in, they saw me. From a distance, I couldn't even tell that the wreckage was a minivan. And then when I got closer, I could tell that it was a van, but I couldn't tell that it was my van. It was that destroyed. And there was another random car off to the side that had nothing to do with the accident. It actually had occurred a couple days before, so it didn't make any sense to me the way things were. And but I walked up within 10 feet. They were standing right at the two officers were standing right at the front of the van, and directly behind them I could see a body laying in the grass. And in my mind, there was nothing that was going to stop me from getting to my wife. And the one guy you could tell he didn't know what to say. He was standing like this. And the other officer, he's looking me dead in the eyes, and he said, please don't do this. Please don't do this. And I'm on a mission. And I was actually picking up speed because I was just going to knock him over. And as he said the third time, please don't do this, I had told you I didn't know who was in the car. And it struck me as odd when the guy called that he said 2 of the girls are okay. So when he said the third time, please don't do this, out of the corner of my eye, I realized there was a body laying to my right, and there was a body laying up in the grass. And I could tell that it was my wife behind them. So, like, I was gripped. What stopped me wasn't him. What stopped me was the reality that there were 2 other families that lost a daughter. And me reacting badly wasn't going to be good for anybody. So they were very nice officers. And they both put their arm around me to control me without controlling me. Like, not in a forceful way. They just wanted to make sure I moved in a specific direction. And they started taking me away. And he said, please. He said, this is a criminal scene. He said, if you touch anything, you disturb evidence. And all I wanted to do was lay hands on my wife and, at least pray for raising from the dead. And but at that moment, when I saw out of the corner of my eye the two girls laying, it just took all the fight out. Yeah, I got back to the hospital, and then I had to tell my son that Logan, who had a very good relationship with Rhoda, I had to tell him that that Rhoda was dead. And at the same time, I had to, on the way down, I had to coordinate with my sister because the plan was that, I would still be home. I could go down to the football field that was only a couple minutes from the house and get my son after his football game. So now I'm not going to be able to be there to get him. And after I got to West Virginia, now I realized that I'm not going to be home at all for the night. I mean, my son would have to spend the night somewhere. So the people that I originally called to be at the field to receive him, who are from the church and I trust, spiritually trust also, it wasn't going to be a good option for that. So I had to call my sister, and I said, hey, I need you to pick Graham up from the football game and tell him that he's staying with you overnight, that I decided to come to West Virginia and we're going to not be home tonight. I said, that's all he needs to know. I said, but do not turn your radio on and don't let him watch any TV, because the crash had made national news. So even that night, it had made national news. So it was on the radio, it was on the internet, it was on so I said, don't let him look at his phone, don't let him watch anything. So I was there. My parents had come down to the hospital. They were there by the time that I was able to tell Irene and Logan that Rhoda had died. And they released Logan at 1 or 2 o'clock in the morning. So he left, and I think it was closer to midnight. He left, and he went with my parents. My parents took Logan and Irene back to their house, and I was still at the hospital. But at that point, I said, okay, I'm just waiting for them to clear the wreckage from the highway. I want to go down and make sure that there's not anything personal that's left on the site for, the news to get or somebody else. So I wanted to be able to be there as soon as they opened the highway to go down and check things out. So I went back down to the crash site, and I did find a few notebooks from the teenage girls and a purse and different personal effects that were missed by the police because it's dark. And